How's everybody? Uh, a little bit about your topic, homelessness. So when you think about homelessness, look at the underlying cause of why that subject is homeless. Okay, and you had talked about three topics: drug use and mental illness. So was the homelessness caused by one of those two things, other two underlying factors, or was the homelessness first, then the other two items came about as a result of the homelessness? So let's look at a couple of different options, the different ways you can look at this scenario, and without actually talking to somebody to find out about that individual. So you have homelessness. Let's just say that person is now homeless, and what caused the homelessness for that one particular person that you're looking to help? So was the underlying cause because of the drug dependency that caused a financial hardship that caused them to lose their home and family, or was it because of an underlying mental health issue that they didn't get fixed or couldn't take care of because of financial reasons or whatever? So when you look at, and I've encountered all different kinds of folks that are homeless, and having conversations with them. Sometimes this is they're all the same three things. They're all intertwined to one another. So whenever you go to look at what's the cause of the homelessness, you have all these other factors that you need to determine. And do I try to fix one before the other, or what happened to cause all three things? Okay. And an example I'd like to give you is a young lady I knew for many years. She's still around, but she had a mental health crisis, didn't get help. The family couldn't help her anymore. She moved, got kicked out of the house. The family wants nothing to do with her. Now she has a chemical dependency on drugs because she's trying to self-medicate. So through that self-medication, she has developed that dependency upon narcotics that because she can't go to the doctor to get a prescription, which would ultimately help her problem. So whenever you encounter that kind of homelessness, what ultimately caused that problem, right? But at the same time, somebody has a chemical dependency on a narcotic, and they lose everything they have because of that dependency. They're now homeless because of that. So now they also have a chemical dependency, and they don't have a home. They lost their family, and what that will lead to is obviously mental health problems as well, because there's that added stress now of, oh gosh, I've lost everything I've worked my whole life for. Okay, but they all are intertwined with one another, and to get to the root of the problem is to get to the root of that individual, because everybody is going to be different. So, my best advice for you is if you're going to look to assist that sector in the community, is to be able to look at the individual themselves and say, this is what I need to do. Now, there's organizations that can help them, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But in order to get to the right people to help that one individual is to know how to get what it is they need help with, particularly first. Take care of the bigger problem with what that one individual has at that time. Okay? Make sense to you? Yeah. Because they may have all three problems, but which was the one that really kicked off the bad times for them? Yeah. Okay. Any questions? All right.
You'll start to see by what Corporal Gins said to you, why homeless and trying to solve it is so difficult.
Yeah.
Because you can go to a homeless camp and they may have three different reasons why they're there. So, each reason needs a different solution.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no one solution that probably would be right for everyone in that homeless camp. So one of the things as you're thinking about, or how do I get involved in it, maybe because it's such a big, maybe you pick one aspect: mental health, drug dependency, just, they may have PTSD from being in the military. there's all kinds of different things, reasons why they're there. So think about that. Maybe you just want to concentrate on one of those possibilities. What do you think about that?
Yeah,
Corporal?
that would be a good idea. And you still would have your hands full. But keep in mind, if you were to help just one person, that's one person. I think you could help more than one, especially if you were able to narrow down your selection to just, like the mayor said, we're going to go after one certain aspect of the problem itself. And when people see it help, and there again, you all know what peer pressure is, right? Well, think about this too. The people living in these camps have peer pressure too, because they have to rely on somebody watching their back all the time, and they have to conform to what they're around. Kind of like us, you in high school, kind of like it was when I was in high school. Hey, we still need to fit in where we are. And whenever somebody comes in that's new, they have to realize too that, hey, I need to be a part of this group so I can be safe. And oftentimes that's what leads to the drug dependency. And there again, if that person already has a mental health issue, the drug dependency only worsens it because they're not getting the proper treatment for their problem, which is sometimes pretty easy to fix. And they turn out to be a pretty good person and are able to get back to some sort of normal life. Whereas that drug dependency just exasperates the problem and makes it much worse.
And the other thing, what Corporal Ginn touched on, and you actually talked about it in your first meetings. One way where you could potentially help homelessness, and again, this is what you'll decide, is by helping the young people not get to the point where Officer Ginn's example. How do you help your classmates not get into the situation of that drug dependency? Something also to think about. So as you formulate and you try to decide what area of this you want to work on, I know you talked about it, helping your classmates and drug use. That may be helping somebody stay out of the situation that was just described. Okay, so that's another possibility.
Because we meet a lot of homeless people that are from the area. They're not just from up north or out west Florida. They're from here. And that's concerning. That's things that could have been prevented beforehand. Any questions?
So you're saying that we should, like
Well, do me a favor.
the mic?
There's a little button on that. Make sure it's green and then talk into the microphone so that we have a record of what you said.
Okay. So you're saying that instead of like going to the homeless camp and trying to solve all three, we pick one of the underlying causes and find the people with the underlying causes and fix those first? If we were to do that possibility, we go to the people who have, like, let's say the drug dependency was their underlying cause. We help the people who have drug dependency as an underlying cause first, and then we move on to bigger stages instead of taking all three on at once.
It's one of the possibilities that you will discuss in the future. Because, like I said, to try to take on every problem that everybody in homeless camps have, that's a big, as mayor and our council, we don't have that answer yet. So it will be very difficult in the few months that you'll be on this council to solve every problem. So you may want to decide, hey, let me try to concentrate on one part of the problem, not every part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different parts to the problem of homelessness.
Yes. Because sometimes all that person needs is that one little part that's missing, and they click and they're fine. Sometimes that's all it takes. And if you're trying to fix what's not broken, you may worsen the problem. And then that frustrates you and frustrates everyone else. And then you think, I did all this for nothing. Well, not knowing what really was the problem in the first place. So.
See, sometimes when I talk to people like our police department or anybody around. I try to talk to people and I come up with ideas. So I'm going to ask a stupid question. I got a lot of stupid questions, so I'm not afraid of asking them. Would it be possible to bring in 1, 2 homeless people in here to talk to the group?
It'd be possible.
What do you think?
they were
Would you
willing.
would you like to hear from an actual homeless person and have them tell tell the story? I think that might be, you might find that interesting. I know I would. I mean, I don't get to talk to homeless people every day, and maybe I'll learn something on how to help them as well.
You would get a better understanding of what you're going to be dealing with.
And I think if nothing else, you might come away giving a person some kind of hope and that, hey, I have the young people of Hardyville and Jasper County thinking of me and my troubles. And that, if nothing else, that person may walk away from here feel better about themselves. Okay. Let's see if we can work on it.
All right, and Sergeant Brown is going to talk a little bit about what I touched on briefly, which is about the actual fixation. What can we do to help the problem? He has a lot more experience with that than I do.
Hello, everyone. Hello. You all awake? All right. Listen, I've got so much stuff, I think I did some overkill because, so I was informed that I've got, 3 minutes to give you as much information as I can. Just joking, Mayor. Yeah, no, I'm always smiling. So, the one thing that I heard the mayor say, right, is you want to prevent these people from getting to that point. So what do? You work backwards, right? You find out the root cause and try to nip it in the bud at that level. All right. A little easier said than done because a lot of these folks, they already come to us formed. But for the ones here in Hardyville, the residents in Hardyville, especially the kids out at your all schools and so forth, have yet to come into the society, it's going to be a big help. You get that message out to them. All right. I put together some notes here, some key things. First of all, the homeless population in Hardyville is approximately 12 to 15 individuals that I deal with on a weekly basis. These are weekly interactions along with yearly what we call PIT counts, which stands for point in time counts, which the local nonprofit organizations would conduct, and we would be out there conducting it with them. And so this would require us to go into the homeless camps. There were 2 major ones around here, and anywhere else that these folks would congregate, right? We, on average, would see 1, maybe 2 transients come in, passing through Hardyville. And sometime if they like it, they'll hook up with the local homeless population, and sometimes they have a tendency to stay, or they'll go ahead and they will move along. Now, some of the more common areas that we see them would be the gas stations. We see them walking up and down the streets at all hours, weather dependent. And what I mean by weather dependent, if it's summertime, what will happen is, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, they're up and about, right? And they tend to get into things that they shouldn't be getting into, sometimes crimes of opportunity or whatever. During the wintertime, not so much. Right? a lot of times during the inclement weather, during whether it's severe heat or severe cold, like now it's starting to get very cold, uh, you'd find them hanging out in the back parking lots of the motels, the restaurants, businesses, and a lot of times they would get together, scrape up enough money to where up to five would end up in a room for sometime the weekend or the duration of the night or the 2 days or whatever. They'd pull their resources to get through it. Now, some of the contributing factors for the homeless situation here in Hardyville are the lack of affordable housing due to rising rent costs, right? Another one is job loss, of which the pandemic was a very, 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 very big factor. I'm going to give you a quick example. There are two people that I met, and I talked to each of them, each of these folks, and I got to get not intimate, but very up close and personal. So number one, they trust me to the point that they will allow me to help them, right? So, but they shared their story, and what it was they had very nice jobs up in Beaufort. The pandemic hit, and unfortunately, they tried to hold on. They tried to stay up there as long as possible. The money dwindled. The hotels got expensive. There was no end in sight with this thing, caused problems, and they ended up coming down here to Hardyville, where it was rumored that their rooms and so forth were much more, affordable. And so they came down here and they did what they could. They held on to the last minute, down to the last dollar. And finally, they ended up homeless, living in tents. The interesting thing is, during that time, they both developed a drug problem, I guess, to deal with what was going on. And they just kind of spiraled. I see them from time to time. I offer them the help. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So that's on them, right? That's just one situation, one example. And you have medical issues. And last but not least is the mental health issues. But speaking of mental health, drug and alcohol addictions are very, very, very big contributors to the current issues, right? And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of systems in place to address any kind of long-term mental health issues. What's been happening is I attend a meeting up in Ridgeland once a month with some of the judges and so forth and folks from the jail. And we all agree that this has become a situation of like a dog chasing its tail, right? So you have someone who is mentally ill, they come out here and they do something, or they're trespassing, or whatever it is that they're doing. So they get picked up. We know they're not mentally well. We take them to jail. The next day, they're out, back on the street. And this is a revolving thing. The only way to stop this thing is to provide them with some type of mental health assistance, right? And there's a couple of places that it's like a stopgap, but it's very temporary. And it all depends on that person. Like, you can't force them to get this help that some of them acknowledge that they need, right? Because some of that would require them leaving the state, leaving out of Hardyville, and going someplace remote that nothing's familiar to them, and they've got to start all over, and they don't want to do that. They don't want to leave their family, their homeless family, and their friends and so forth. So they tend to stick around. All right, so let's talk about what's causing the homeless to migrate to Hardyville, because that's a big thing. Hardyville, number one, has an abundance of cheap, affordable, cash accepting, without ID motels. So in other words, you just walk up in there, and as long as you have the money, they don't care. They just want their money. When stuff goes bad, I go up to them and say, hey, you get this guy's ID, driver's license, something, a credit card, debit card? No. Oh, well, why not? Well, we won't make as much, is what I've been told on a couple occasions. It's on you, right? So they come down here because of that. Money can stretch a little farther, and nobody's really going to dig and require any kind of these things, these documents. Number two, we've got dollar stores and gas stations that will provide food, drink, and necessities for cheap, right? And you have the churches, the nonprofits, the food banks, and well-meaning citizens and passerbys and motorists that you might see somebody sitting on the corner, right? And sometime from time to time we get these calls. Somebody's laying in the grass or they're standing up doing whatever with a sign. People will feel very sorry for them, and they'll go up and they'll buy them food, right? I've seen that happen quite a few times, especially at places like QT and the Pilot Truck Stop. They're parked in the back, and they've been there a while, and they're struggling. People just come by, see them, have a little pity, compassion, get them some water, something to eat, you know, right? So, really and truly, and something that just came to mind is they're coming up here from Savannah. Savannah is cleaning out their homeless. They're just moving them out like, we don't care where you go, just go. And they've been coming here, right? And that's the fact that just the mere fact that we are Hardyville, this is a name that's upcoming that back in the day I used to kind of snicker at and chuckle because I never heard of Hardyville. And it was very small, right? Now look, it's exploding. You have people coming here, a lot of people. In the next few years, we're going to have Buc-ee's up there by Exit 8, right? And you know what's going to happen? I mean, the homeless population is going to continue to increase. They're coming. We are the oasis in the desert, as I'd like to refer to us, right? Again, like I said, Savannah is the biggest offender. A lot of times you got the cops dropping them off here, and sometimes us returning the favor, taking them back across the bridge to Greyhound, right, where they're requesting to go. But a lot of transients that are just passing through, again, they link up with the others and they end up staying. So now what are we trying to do about it? The Hardyville Police Department has been partnering successfully with nonprofit agencies for a couple of years now to help some of these transits get help for whatever needs they are, if they want the help. You know, some of them just don't want it. Like I said, they're happy where they're at. They don't want to go anywhere. You can't make them go anywhere. And they just continue to move about. Now, some of these places that we partner in, I'm going to close up here. Some of these places are folks in Charleston, the 180 place, which is a big help for me. St. Vincent de Paul, Mercy Missions, United Way, the Families in Transit. And that's just to name a few. New Life Center, which I've referred many people to. That's drug treatment, you know, counseling to get themselves clean. And we have had some success stories. We have some success stories, which just makes us feel that we have successes, you know. But again, you know, the biggest thing is we don't have any place to treat these folks. So in lieu of treating them, we got to kind of look out for them and still kind of take care of them because they are human, right? You know, a friend of mine once told me, he said, you know, it's very difficult to hate or dislike somebody once you know their story. And I know their stories. These are good people. You all have any questions for me? No? Okay. Where's Mr. Mayor tonight?
He had a last minute change of plans.
Okay. All right. Thanks for y'all's time and attention.
So now you hear a little bit about the homeless population. And we as a city have a little bit of a conundrum, if you know what that means. On the one hand, we want to help the homeless. On the other hand, all those hotels that Sergeant Brown talked about, we're trying to clean them up. We're trying to make them comply with the rules of, getting ID and making sure that there's not, 12 people in one small room. And part of the reason is because we have a lot of passers-by, and then they stop and rent a room, and they find out it's not a very nice place. And also where we try to get new restaurants and new stores to come. Well, the reputation of those hotels down on Exit 5 are not great. So people, we don't have new places coming in that we would like to bring in. If we clean up all those hotels, now we put the homeless in a worse situation. So we're not helping them. And that's one of the reasons why homelessness is such a complex problem, because some of the fixes create problems somewhere else. And that's therefore the conundrum of the situation and why it becomes very hard. I'll give you another conundrum. What do you think of the idea of building a building and it holds 50 people? Use a number. What do you think of that idea? Talking to the
50 homeless people?
Yes. So instead of them out in the camp in the woods and getting cold in the winter, now we say, okay, come on, here's a free room for you. What do you think of that idea?
That's a good idea.
You think it's a good idea?
Is it a reform building or is it just like a building where they just go in and sleep? Like you just put them in there and do nothing with
Like
them?
an apartment building.
Well, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, would that
Why
be
not?
like,
If they're still on drugs or still have mental issues, then you're just throwing them in there with more people on drugs with mental issues. So it's going to foster more drug habits and worse mental issues.
Joseph?
I feel like that'll cause like tension in like the homeless community, because I would be like, if I was in that position, I would be like, why well, I'm kind of talking to, would it be like first come first serve for like the rooms, or like how would that work with who chooses to get in the rooms and who doesn't? Because I know it's more than 50 homeless people in Hardyville, so I know some others may be upset if they won't be able to get the proper housing.
And also, like you said, people come down here because of the cheap prices and everything like that. If they hear that there's a place for them to stay, there might be a bigger influx of homeless people here.
Exactly what many towns and counties are concerned about. There's a saying, build it and they will come. Now you build a place for homeless and they're going to come. They're going to come in droves, and that's a fear. So that's not really a solution. You just, all of a sudden, you haven't solved the problem. You've created a bigger one. Yes.
Are homeless people still considered residents of South Carolina if they were a resident before they're homeless? Because then you could make it so
that's
like
a good question.
it's a residential thing to help out the people in our community before the people in other states.
They're
Last mailing address. Most keep a PO box. In some areas, most get mail delivered to family to keep government contacts. Most are on a system. So, to your question, yes, they're counted in the census based on their last known address.
So why don't we just make it so that if there were to be a 50-person house with well, I still don't think we should do it, but if we were to do it, then it wouldn't really be a problem if we just made it residential only to help out our residents before we help out residents of other places. And then when we like help the homeless people from Jasper County, then we can move on to other places if needed. But if we can help the people there first, we should do it by like identification. Because you said it's a problem in the hotels when they don't have IDs. So why not just ID them for the 50-person house and make it residential only?
All right, so let me ask you a question. And each of you answer it. How about if I take this building, 50 people, and it potentially could house some drug addicts, some people who are drug dealers. You know. How about if I will start down this end? How about I build it right behind your house? What would you think? And talking to the microphone, would you be in favor of that or no?
No, sir.
You wouldn't.
No, sir. I feel like it would, if it were to be built, which it would have to be in a secluded area, to keep our residents more safe, and it would also have to have police officers and stuff like that, and maybe a person a professional of mental health could come and talk or stuff like that.
Joseph?
No, sir, I wouldn't like that.
Joel?
I actually wouldn't mind if drug addict homeless people lived behind my house, but I just don't think they should be allowed in the building regardless, because they might inflict other homeless people who don't have drug habits and then make it worse. So then, no, I wouldn't want it back there.
Isaac?
Nah, I wouldn't like it.
Does anybody know what a NIMBY is?
Nope.
NIMBY. NIMBY. Okay, that's an acronym that is common, that is commonly referred to people where new construction is taking place. And that acronym stands for Not in My Backyard. Meaning, okay, that's a good idea, just don't put it in my backyard. Okay, and that's so. One of the problems besides, if you have 15 people, as Sergeant Brown said now, and you build a place for 50, you're going to have 35 new people new homeless. But also, wherever you try to build it, unless you want to build it out in the desert in Nevada, there's going to be there's going to be a NIMBY saying, I don't want that in my backyard. They're drug addicts. They're criminals. They won't. So you're right. You would have to find some isolated place, and that's part of the problem, because usually isolated places are that has a whole lot of construction problems. But so it's not so much. You just can't, it's not so easy just to say, let's build them someplace, and then they're not homeless anymore. It's not that easy. Plus, you don't solve the underlying problem. If you build them a home for a drug addict, you haven't solved the problem of that drug addiction, have you? They're warmer, but they're not. The reason they're homeless has not been solved, and that's part of the problem. I have a friend who's actually his family's from Mexico. He lived in New Jersey near me for a while, moved back to Texas. When he moved back to Texas, he started a mission. I always thought that this is a really cool idea if somebody would do it. And what that mission is, it is for homeless. However, it's also a program. So they have, I forget what it is, 6 months. They can come in but they have to have their problem solved and they have to get educated. So in 6 months, they have to leave, but they're equipped to go find a job so that they're not homeless anymore. So it's not just a homeless shelter, it's a mission to help people go from down and out to being a productive citizen in society. I always liked that idea. It's just no solution is very easy, but those are the kinds of things I want you all to think about. You know, and that's why when you have conversations, and perhaps when you hear maybe from a homeless person, you start thinking of ideas. How can we, as a youth council, come up with an idea to help? And as Corporal Ginn said, even if we help one person, you save one person's life, every hour that you put into this youth council will be worthwhile because you've saved one life. So, and so those are all things to think about. And I brought up some of those scenarios because I want you to understand there is no silver bullet. You know what that was an old, you ever hear of werewolves? Okay, it's from old people like me know that. But what it was, werewolves, humans turn into a wolf. The only way to kill them was with shooting them with a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet for this problem. It requires maybe multiple solutions, not just one single bullet that will solve every problem. And that's why it's so complicated. Any questions? Okay. One more piece of business that I just want to go over with you. Chiefs, would you like to say anything to the council? You know, I knew he couldn't resist.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon. The only thing I can add to what the mayor's already said, it takes a group of people to go out and help the individual that needs help. It starts out by the drug use. They leave home because of the drug use. They have mental problems because of the drug use. But it takes somebody to give a helping hand to an individual to change their ways. A lot of them not going to do it volunteer. It takes somebody to give them a hand and say, hey, let's turn your life around and I'm going to help you. And that's what it takes. But again, most of these young people today, they make the choice of staying hidden in the woods because they don't have nowhere else to go. They've run out of money. So what do? They have to stay where it don't cost them anything. But unfortunately, the police have to go out there because the landowner don't want them on the property. And now we got to go move them. Well, we move them from this area. They move to this area. So it's an ongoing battle. And we face it every day. But again, let's help them. Try to give them that helping hand if we can. And that's what I'd like to see the youth council try to do. Pick an individual and offer that helping hand and see if that might change somebody's life, okay? Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Chief. That's a kind of a good idea. So one thing you may choose to do is learn one person, two people, and say, hey, how can I help you? And, that's maybe that one life or two life that you gets to save. So that's another tactic that you could take rather than try to solve all 15 people. Try to solve one person, I think one person I'll bring in, we'll try to get a homeless person, but also I'm going to ask Sister Mary Francis to come in. Sister Mary Francis runs Mercy Mission, the food bank out on White Hardy Boulevard here. The homeless camp is right behind Mercy Mission, where the food bank is. And Sister Mary Francis has a big heart and tries to help them a lot. So maybe she could tell you a little bit about the kind of people and who the people are that she tries to help every day. So we're going to have a homeless and Sister Mary Fran. For next. Chief, would you mind? I think my wife's right there. Would you let her in? Would you let her in? Oh, she's in the car. I should have read the text first. I told her to come to the door and text me. She didn't. Anyway, so that's what we'll do for next month. And so the second Wednesday of December is Wednesday, December 10th. Now, I know that's a busy month for you all. So is that a problem for anyone off that you know?
Nope.
And also, I'm going to invite you again that following Thursday, the 18th, that's the second holiday food pantry that we have. And we give away, the Low Country Food Bank gives away hams and also a box of food as well. So if you want to make a note of that, I'll send reminders. And if you want to help with that as well, we haven't decided yet what meal we're going to serve, but it'll be something. I don't know, probably not ham and cheese again, maybe something else, but we haven't discussed that yet. So, but I will, if you want to come to that as well. And we're usually done in an hour and a half. Okay, so you're welcome to come. All right, well, thank you very much. I hope this gave you some things to think about. And when you come back next month, try to, if there's anything, you get any idea, we'll bring it up and we'll talk about it next month. Okay? Thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening, nice weekend. And